on your computer or smartphone. Hear these great artists and many more 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 96.5 thechill.com.
And yet another major brand just announced it's halting all social media advertising.
The two most overused and abused words in advertising are truth and trust. They are the two most precious commodities for all brands, big and small. As an advertiser, you have to trust your partners to protect your brand's truth using the media consumers trust. Radio, it's on.
Trust the Miller Media Group to deliver your message.
CTI is the only internet company that offers a price lock for life on gig-by-gig residential fiber internet at $69.95 per month. You can't control most costs, but you can control the price of your internet. Sign up by clicking their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Cousin Bill here from Illinois Paving. Hey, Christian County and surrounding area. Let us do your paving job, whether large or small this year. Find out how we can do your paving project by clicking on the icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Your information station, WTIM.
Good morning. You're listening to WTIM, your information station, with this version of our morning show and our third and final segment of the show today for Thursday, March 13th. You're brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. My name is Grayson Bauman, and joining me now is Valerie Belusco. She is a University of Illinois Extension educator. And good morning to you, Valerie. How are you doing?
Good morning. I am doing well on this beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day, and I feel like today's topic is very pertinent with what is potentially headed our way after all this beautiful weather that we have had. Today, we're wanting to talk about severe weather and being prepared for some of those spring storms. And as it kind of feels like spring today, what can you tell me about being prepared for the potential for storms upcoming and even as soon as tomorrow afternoon?
Well, so a lot of people don't know that U of I Extension actually works with several different organizations and several different departments on campus that deal with hazard mitigation in many different forms. And so one of the things that we like to think about and talk about in community and economic development is just making sure that you are staying safe. Community members and businesses are keeping everyone safe during storms like the potential storm that we have coming tomorrow. So I don't know if you've been following, but it looks like we're going to be in for lots of lightning, wind, potential for tornadoes tomorrow after 7 p.m., I think is what they're predicting as of this morning. So thinking about how to prepare for that can be incredibly important.
Well, and just, having a plan or at least an idea of what you want to do is certainly an important piece, and especially when you have weather that is incoming as soon as tomorrow. And hopefully the potential updates are not going to be as severe as predicted, but right now it does not look great. And you've got a little thing here that kind of interests me. It's lightning that strikes about 10 miles from where it is raining. You've always heard the kind of thing where you hear the thunder, you count, or you see the lightning, you count, and that's how many miles away is it. Are we thinking something along those lines, or what can you tell me about just knowing about lightning striking within your area?
Well, so lightning is really important right now because we have so many kids that are outside for sports. We've got baseball, softball, track, soccer going on. So lots of kids are outside for sports. And sometimes kids are out training without everyone else. So they might go out for an extra run after practice or something like that. So making sure that kids understand lightning and how to watch and prepare for that, how to be safe during lightning can be very important. So we do say that lightning can strike within 10 miles from where it's raining. Usually if you hear the thunder, the saying goes, you count your seconds. And then as soon as you see the lightning, that's how far away the lightning hit. So if you hear the thunder and then you count to 3, then didn't see the lightning, then the lightning hit about 3 miles away. Really, I would say 10 miles is kind of your safe area. So if you're within 10 miles from where it's raining, there's always potential for lightning. So you always need to stay safe. Make sure your kids understand that if they're outside standing under a tree is not where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think kids always kind of run to trees for safety, but that's a very dangerous place to be. So make sure they understand that whenever they start seeing warnings of a storm, they come inside. Even standing under metal pavilions. I know one time at a softball game, we got stuck out in the middle of nowhere, and the only place for shelter was a metal pavilion dugout area, and it was not ideal. So we were all rushing to our cars because that was much safer. So just keeping that in mind and making sure your kids are aware of that and understand that can be very important for their safety and the safety of the community.
Absolutely. When it comes to planning for a storm like the one that we have coming up, how do you recommend doing so, and kind of maybe a timeline for how to do so and what best to prepare for?
So now is the perfect time to start preparing. One of the things you always want to do is just talk to your kids and make sure they understand where the safest area in the house is. Typically, kids know where the safest area is within a school because they practice and they have drills and they talk about it usually every quarter. But at home, sometimes we forget. And sometimes it's just easy to get caught up in the beauty of a storm and maybe be looking right out the window. So we want to make sure that kids really understand there are safe places to go when there's a storm. If you have a basement, that is definitely ideal. If you do not have a basement, you want to be in the interior of a home away from any kind of windows. And you want to make sure that you're just in an area where maybe you wouldn't have something falling on you or anything, like if there's no electrical wires running by you, anything like that. So just keep it nice and safe. Figure out where your safe spot is in your house. Make sure you're talking to your kids about that.
Say you
Now,
don't. Sorry.
For adults, there's also something important to think about. As a more than 40-something-year-old now, I am at the age where I have to think about, okay, if there's a storm and I have to run down to the basement, do I have a pair of shoes down there in case I run down barefoot? Keep a pair of shoes there. Do I have my glasses? And even just grabbing your purse on the way down, having, that I keep a battery pack in my purse for my phone. I have my keys. I have my wallet, all of those important papers. Having those with you can be very important because if a storm does come through that produces a tornado and there is damage done upstairs, you're going to need those your debit card, your driver's license. And so knowing where that is can be very helpful. So keep that with you. Be prepared to bring that with you whenever a storm comes up. And also maybe think about medication. If you're diabetic or if you have something that you really rely upon, make sure you're bringing that medication with you for the duration of the storm, either downstairs to the basement or to the safe area of your home.
Something that I wouldn't have thought about, being medications and having them on hand. And when a storm has the potential for a tornado, just things to be aware of, keeping those key items close and maybe making sure you have a battery pack or even a hand crank radio or something along those lines to at least know of the potential for the storm and what is going on above you. Hopefully you have a basement. And if you do not, is there a recommended safe place? I've always heard it's the bathroom, in the bathtub, away from windows. If somebody doesn't have a basement, is there a recommended area within the home that you could honestly say, hey, this is probably the best place for you?
You really want to be kind of in the center of a home. Usually that has to do with framing, and I am not a contractor or builder whatsoever, so I don't know much about that. But they say try to get in the middle. Try to get in the middle of the home. Try to be away from windows and doors. Try to not be in an area. In some of our offices, we have rooms that some people might think are very safe rooms because they are in the center of our building and there's no windows. However, we also have things like server wires and plumbing and things like that in those rooms. And so that's not a designated safe room for us. And so if you're in an office, something like that, you always want to keep that into consideration. If you can be away from wires and pipes, that's definitely ideal. In the center, I personally like to have a blanket with me, just something I can cover up with, and even something to just help shield the kids, because sometimes kids get scared. And so if you have your phone, if it's charged, watch a video, look through pictures, something to kind of distract them, and be under your blanket. Make it fun and less scary for them, so that you can just get through the hard part of the storm and then keep on moving with your life without having it impact and traumatize your kids too much.
I hear you on all those fronts right there. I had a sister who was terrified of them. She'd get the blanket, get underneath it, and hide in the stairwell. So I know all about just being a little more comfortable in that situation, even though the situation itself is uncomfortable. Before we move on to our first break, Valerie, now that it is the day of the storm, the day before the storm and the potential for it, what are the recommended ways to prepare for said storm?
So just make sure that you're constantly following all the weather updates. This is Illinois, so things change on a dime, and things will probably, what is predicted now will probably change before it actually happens tomorrow night. So keep that in mind. Keep following everything. Keep your family members updated. Make sure that wherever you're going to go is clean and accessible. Make sure you have the things that you want down there already or in that room already, just so you can be prepared.
Okay.
And then continue to remind your family of the communication plan. Remind your kids to make sure their phones are charged all the way. Make sure you check on any elderly family members you have, any neighbors, those kind of things.
And I appreciate you just kind of taking us through, because as of tomorrow, we might just see that plan needing to be in action. We're speaking with Valerie Belusco, University of Illinois Extension educator, and we'll be right back around to talk more about watches versus warnings and things to be prepared for with severe weather on its way. You're listening to WTIM, your information station.
Your information station, WTIM.
Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn, beans, and Chicago wheat all higher. May corn up 8.5, 469 1/4. July corn up 8 1/4, 475 3/4. December new crop 452 3/4, up 4.5. May beans 1016 3/4, up 16.5. July beans up 15 3/4, 1031 1/4. New crop November 1019 up 12.5. May wheat up 11 3/4, 565.5. July wheat up 10 3/4, 580 1/4. May bean meal 308.60 up 840. May bean oil 41.82 up 14 cents. Livestock market, March feeders down a dime, 280.15. April live cattle 201.07, down 32 cents. April lean hogs down $1.15, 85.35. Energy market, April crude oil 67.23, down 45 cents. Jim Taylor on the RFD Radio Network.
I'm Jeff Grimmett, Assistant Vice President at People's Bank and Trust in Taylorville. People's Bank and Trust is proud to sponsor Taylorville Junior High School Students of the Month on all of the WTIM platforms.
I'm Seth Richardson, the 6th grade student of the month. My parents are Benjamin and Molly Richardson. The school subjects I enjoy are math and science because they are interesting. This year at TGHS, I'm involved in choir and band. After high school, I would like to be a band and choir teacher because I love music. A fun fact I would like you to know about me is I also love bowling and joined the Youth Bowling League.
Congratulations to these students on this honor from People's Bank and Trust. We put people first every day at People's Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
If you're looking for a local, full or part-time job in Central Illinois, there's an easy place to go to find current job openings. It's IllinoisJobPost.com. That's IllinoisJobPost.com. You'll find jobs available near you. And the best part is that it's free for candidates to access 24/7. If you want a local job when you don't have to spend a lot of money on gas to get to, then you want access to IllinoisJobPost.com to check out current local job openings. That web address again is IllinoisJobPost.com. Another service from your friends at the Miller Media Group.
Matt Corso here. Proud to now be a part of the Kaufman Realty and Auction team right here in Taylorville. Let my over 20 years of real estate and auction experience work for you. Click my icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Taylorville boasts a long tradition of community and small town values. With charming storefronts and great local eateries, it has become a popular road trip destination. Learn more by clicking the small town Taylorville icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
WTIM.
Back around with the final segment of the WTIM morning show here this Thursday, and you're listening to your information station and brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. I'm joined by Valerie Belusco, University of Illinois Extension educator, and we're talking about severe weather preparedness, and it's a perfect time to be doing so. So we talked about storm planning timeline and how to make sure you and your family are prepared, but how can you know to be prepared? The best way maybe with watches versus warnings. Can you kind of explain the difference between the two and how to be aware of the differences with them?
Well, so a watch means that all of the atmospheric conditions are favorable for severe weather. So it can occur and cover a large area, and what we want people to do is just make sure they are staying alert and make sure they're ready to take shelter if that warning is issued. I had a kid show me something recently, actually, that I thought was absolutely brilliant. And they said, "It's like tacos, Mrs. Lesko." And I said, "What? It's like tacos?" And they said, "Yeah, if it's a watch, then you have everything that you need for tacos, but it's like all out on the table and it's not put together yet. But if you get a warning, then your taco is put together, and that's when you need to take shelter." And I thought it's so cute that they came up with this creative idea, or I don't know where they heard of it, but came up with this creative idea to kind of help them remember which one is the severe one. So your warning, if your taco is all put together, then you need to go downstairs or in your safe spot. It's the weather, whatever is going to happen, is going to cover a relatively small area, but it's going to be much more severe. So you want to take action. You want to go to your shelter immediately because severe weather is occurring or coming very quickly.
And an interesting analogy there, one I wouldn't have thought of. So just kind of goes to show kids' creativity in that regard, whether they heard that or not. But with the warning, you mentioned it there, covers a relatively small area. Is that something typically that in order to be kind of aware of and where you're at within the storm warning, you have to be constantly updated? Or how do you know for sure that it's going over your area? Looking at the phone, looking at your radio, listening? What might be the recommended way to know?
Well, if you're lucky enough to live in town, you're going to listen for those storm sirens to go off. As soon as you hear those storm sirens, get to your safe place. If you're like me and live out in the middle of nowhere, out in the country, you are not going to hear storm warnings. So we have on our phone, we have weather apps that will send off alerts to us as soon as there's a warning in our area. We make sure that during storms, our location is always turned on our phone for those apps so that the phone knows exactly where we're at and can, give us a very accurate reading of when we need to, seek shelter. I think that's the best thing you can do. I know a lot of people like to kind of watch the weather on their TV, watch it coming on. That's great until you lose power. Right now, if you look at the maps of the weather that's coming in for Friday, most of Illinois is covered in some kind of orange or yellow, meaning something's definitely going to happen. But that is predominantly for wind and rain. What you really have to watch for is where is the heavy lightning occurring? Where is the potential for tornadoes? Those are going to be those little pockets that you see on the map that'll be in red, highlighted in red. And that means it's a warning and it's severe and everything is favorable. It might not happen. But you know what? It's never something that you should bet on. It's if you have the right conditions, just seek shelter, be safe, keep everyone else safe. Don't forget about your pets, your animals. I have a dog. We have 3 dogs, and our big dog, who is a pit bull, she is such a scaredy cat when it comes to storms, and she just shakes and she goes into a big panic attack. And so we always have to know that if we're not at home and she is at home, we have to have somebody come get her because we're afraid she'll have a heart attack if she's by herself. So keeping things like that in mind is also important.
And Valerie, we have got just about maybe 30 seconds even. I know you wanted to talk a little bit about wind and dry conditions. Can you give us a brief idea of that?
So I cover 4 counties, and what I've been watching a lot is we've had a lot of emergency management personnel that have been called out to controlled burns that have gotten out of control. So I just want to keep everyone, thinking about controlled burns. Make sure that if you're doing a controlled burn, you have a water hose ready, some kind of water source, that you're really watching things and you have enough people helping with them, because our emergency management personnel can be stretched pretty thin during conditions like this, and we really want to keep that in mind. They do what they can do, but the responsibility is also ours.
Absolutely. Well, that is Valerie Belusco. She is a University of Illinois Extension educator. Valerie, thank you for joining me here on the WTIM Morning Show. You've been listening to your information station.
The Big 870 WTIM Assumption Taylorville, 96.1 W241 CF Taylorville, 107.5 W298 CD Shelbyville, 107.9 W300 EH Payne and Nokomis.
Signs of tapering off. The Labor Department reports its producer price index was unchanged from January after rising 0.6% the month before. Compared to a year earlier, producer prices, which track inflation before it reaches consumers, were up 3.2%, but that figure is actually down 0.5% year over year. Separately, the number of Americans